That's a great process, right? Where we come to correct our emergent understanding of something in public. And I've seen it happen
because the whole game is to cartoonify someone. And so James makes it very easy to cartoonify him on social media, because he's playing some cartoon. It's not the James I know. And
right.
So then if you show it's vulnerability. Perhaps it's human vulnerability. It's all of a sudden this big, giant, famous monster that's ushering in neo-fascism or whatever is a human being, and it's quite difficult to not differentiate the person you're seeing from the screen from the cartoon that's being created. I often think about how individuals are cartoonified on the internet, and how I don't see them as cartoons, and so it's hard for me to string someone up who's being shamed or something like that, because I just don't see them as the effigy that's getting burnt. But yeah.
I have had the experience many, many times, especially over the last 6 years, of encountering somebody who I had what I thought was a pretty complete picture from their public presentation. And then I encounter them in personal space, and they are very different than I had imagined. Very different. And I then watch this happen to people with me, right? People who have gotten some impression, and then we meet interpersonally, and it, in some cases, rocks their world, because it reveals how false an impression can be if you're standing in the wrong spot. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I don't want to torture you as an artist. I don't want to torture you by trying to stick the label next to the piece that you've put on the wall of the gallery. But I am fascinated by what it is and how it works. And one thing I see you doing, you are providing a friend-level view of the human being that is a wonderful corrective for the aggressive...
Monster.
Yeah, for the monster. And so anyway, again, I do think that that's kind of a gamble. But
I also don't think anyone is good at presenting themselves on the internet. I think that there is I don't think anyone is good at presenting themselves full stop. That's where you get these body dysmorphia things. You really don't know how you look to the outside world. And most of Jungian psychology, which I find very interesting, is to try and figure out what parts of yourself you don't see, so you can come into alignment with them. But we won't go too far down that mad rabbit hole. But I think that something's taking place on the internet where we're forced to consciously construct a persona, and I think it's driving people mad. Think about an identity in a town where internet hasn't come into play. You're in a small rural town, where I am now actually. You're in Germany, in a farming town. Your identity is built in concert with the people around you, and it's usually something that you're doing. Identity is done, not presented. And so, you may wear some weird clothes, or you play with it, especially when you're a teenager, but that's kind of like an awkward phase you go through where you're trying to construct what the world sees of you. I think healthy people, well-rounded people just do their identity into adulthood. And now we're forced to construct your persona digitally, and it's also very hard to see people receive your persona in a way that you don't want them to receive it as well. And so there's a lot of pathologies around wanting to control the way that people see you. And other people are trying to control the way people see you for their own purposes. And so there's this kind of mad persona building and destroying process that's taking place. And it's also making people build their morality. Someone who's too online, there's a kind of like digital superego that people are around trying to construct. And I think that these grievance studies people are trying to create this construct in order to literally, I guess literally in a way, program the personalities of the world to their activist ends. And so there is this kind of construction of these super egos are going to war on the internet, trying to build people on the outside. And if you're too online, you are going to be head into all kinds of pathologies when you're playing with that. And I think that's something that's very interesting. And it's very interesting being here in Germany, where I know the language enough to get by, but I don't know it very well. So I get to avoid all the bullshit and just interact with people. I really love being in a place like this, because we don't abstract too far into nothingness. We're just there together and being. And these people don't really mess with the internet. The next generation is for sure, but they're all farmers and doers and well-rounded, kind people. And I really like it here.
All right. That was
a rant.
No, that was the nugget. That was the thing that I was torturing you to get you to say, because it's incredibly deep and important. And actually it dovetails with something that Heather frequently talks about. It's not only the artifice that arises out of the online presentation and one's ability to curate it in a way that is unnatural, but it is also the durability of past versions of it. Right? In other words, you are supposed to go through that awkward phase as a teenager where you get to figure out who you are, and you are not supposed to be dogged for the rest of your life by a snapshot from it. Right? That is not something you're supposed to be permanently stuck with. It is something that is supposed to decay in the memories of those who knew you at the time and becomes unimportant. And so I do think there is a kind of insanity that arises out of the ability to curate your own image, and actually
the ability to curate other people's. There's that awkward moment the teenager has that disappears. But think about someone that doesn't like you. They're probably doing this mentally. They're aggregating all your slip-ups.
Exactly.
And now they can do it in a more, I think it's digital, but it's still physical. They do it in a physical way. They're aggregating all of your slip-ups. And then casting their version of you out there, often in some kind of political assassination attempt.
Not even slip-ups.
Reframes, ticks, yeah.
Ticks, ways that you phrase things, words that you use too frequently, right? All of these things are vulnerabilities because, and here's one of the punchlines from my perspective. I think the insanity that you are diagnosing actually goes back to the invention of the proper mirror. Before there was flat glass and a silver coating that made an accurate mirror, there were polished pieces of metal that gave you an impression of how you might look, but it wasn't highly reliable because they weren't really that flat. The closer you get to being able to regard yourself as someone else sees you, the greater the temptation to try to alter what they see, right? There's a positive feedback that kicks in. If your only understanding of how you looked to other people was how they reacted to you, it would cause you, if you did something one day and it caused people not to interact with you very well or not to look you in the eye or whatever, you might not know why you didn't feel so great about what you did that day, but you would over time adjust your presentation so that it resulted in people interacting with you in the way that was best, right? So you might in fact end up accidentally, you ever meet somebody and they're not classically attractive, but they are undeniably attractive. The way they carry themselves is appealing, and you just think, I like this person. I like to be around this person, right? That genuineness would encompass a much wider range of phenotypes than this artificial situation. I mean, it's become hyper artificial in the modern world, but the ability to know what you look like, the ability to modify what you look like, the ability to surgically alter what you look like, the ability to cultivate that which you present online, and now the ability to use filters and other kinds of tech, including artificial intelligence, to present something that's preternaturally one way or the other. These things are definitely driving us crazy.
Yeah.
And we'd be better off without them. And I do believe you, based on what you just said.
Can I say something
Please.
I'm friends with two crazy South African boys who decided to make social media platforms. And we were collaborating on this for quite a while. We were trying to make social media platforms that were healthy. And so there was one social media platform where it's a bit obscure and hard to describe exactly what it was, but it was a social media platform where the people around you actually ended up building your profile. So people would write letters about someone, and then it would be an aggregation of these letters, and then you could go there and get a view of who someone was, but seen from the outside. And I mean, it sounds kind of basic and weird, and it's very, very difficult to scale something like that up because it doesn't have all the brainstem stuff. But we saw some very, very interesting psychological things happen from that. I went around and shot interviews with people who were using this, and I was able to make every one of them cry just with one single question. One question. You would find one letter that said something, and you would ask them about it, and they would seriously cry, and they would be so fascinated about the way that the world viewed them that, if you look behind the scenes, you could see that everyone was looking at their own profile and rereading their own letters and things like that. And the other thing is the process of writing about someone else was very therapeutic for people. It was almost like gratitude for having these people in their lives. And so I found that very, very interesting. As I said, you can't scale those sorts of things up. It's not sugar and fat, but it taught me a lot about the psychological interface that we have with our current social media platforms. And I think it's something in that cultivation and presentation of a constructed persona, and actually analytically doing that rather than it naturally happening is very, very, very unhealthy.
Yeah, this is fascinating. And there is something, your social group in a 300 years ago, your social group has leeway to reflect back at you things that you do need to know about yourself out of genuine concern for you. And it may do this by mocking you, right? Your friends may have a good laugh about something that you do that you don't realize is a thing. And that good laugh may be kind of painful, and you may laugh along with them or you may not. But the point is, if you have a group in which everybody agrees, hey, we like you or you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right? So if we're mocking you about this thing, it's not because we've changed our mind about you, right? It's part of it. It's like a mirror. It's like an intelligent mirror that doesn't cause you to obsess on something that's actually not important because you can't figure out what it is. But it's actually, if done by the more decent your friend group, the better job they will do at letting you know what you need to know and insulating you from things that are probably not in your interest to know. And we have lost touch with this, in part because, the modern internet is you have too much power to curate how you present in the world. B, you have way more antagonists than is normal for life, unless you're not doing anything interesting. But if you're doing something interesting, you just automatically have people trying to tear you down, looking for vulnerabilities, pretending, frankly, pretending that they are more people than they actually are, showing up with anonymous accounts, trying to create a chorus where there's one person, trying to exploit something. All of these things are routes to a kind of insanity. And to bring it back to your art, it is a kind of antidote to this, because it is undeniably, Peter Boghossian talking to you, his friend, about the status of his project while lying in his bed you know, under the covers, like, you didn't stage it, right? That's real. Whatever that is real.
And that's Pete. Like, it's Pete, one of the most open
Pete.
humans on the planet. Yeah.